Hey you guys, it's Sonia. So once again, new pair. These are just red, and I've always wanted a red pair of glasses, and I finally got them. I'll let you know where I got these somewhere in the video, so you'll know where I order. Again, I order all my glasses online, and so far I haven't had any problems. So I'm totally in love with these red cat eye. They're exactly what I wanted. They were cheap, very reasonable. So anywho, that's that. I decided with this video to go a little off the grid. This is not going to be anything about Sisterlocks. I actually have a bone to pick about the Madam C.J. Walker series, 4-part series that aired on Netflix about a week or so ago. If you were paying attention or followed anything about this, the internet's Twitter everywhere was going crazy because this series was full of so many inaccuracies. Like the film, oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start. I'm just going to say first and foremost, I was highly disappointed with the direction that Alila, however you say her name, who is Madam C.J. Walker's great granddaughter, because she was very much part of this film. She signed off and okayed what the director and producers put out. And what they put out was a lot of inaccuracies, and they put in the character of Addie Monroe, who was supposed to be really the real life Annie Malone. The way they portrayed her was so horrible and so unnecessary to me, and we're going to get into why. I went into this film, watching this film, expecting to learn more about Madam C.J. Walker, her backstory, things of that sort. And as the film started, you quickly realize that this is not what you're going to get. This is not going to be a history lesson, let alone a true history lesson. And I'm going to be honest. I don't know much about C.J. Walker other than what we were taught growing up in school. So I mean, in school books, what do they teach? She was the first to have her own hair care line. She created the hot comb, which was not true. She did not. She took the hot comb and enhanced it. She was the first self-made millionaire. That's not completely true either. That's not true. There were other black millionaires before her, Annie Malone being one of them. So that's really all I knew. And what angers me is that history totally left out the contributions of Annie Malone and what she brought to the table. And what she brought to the table is what Madam C.J. Walker stole. She stole Annie Malone's formula for the hair growth, grease or oil that they were selling. C.J. Walker worked for Annie Malone. She was her mentor. So C.J. Walker eventually decided that she wanted to go off on her own, sell these products. She stole the formula from Annie Malone and put her spin on it, enhanced it, even though I don't know how she enhanced it, but she claims she enhanced it using Annie's formula. And that's how she was able to start her empire. So right off the bat, why can't you give this woman credit for the money that you made, the empire that you built? You didn't do it on your own. This woman had already, Annie Malone, she laid the groundwork for what you're doing. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to say I know this movie is not about Annie Malone, it's about Madam C.J. Walker. But you have to understand, especially if you haven't seen the movie yet, the basis of the movie is dealing with the supposed rivalry between C.J. Walker and Annie Malone, or Addie Monroe, as she's called in the movie. There's these metaphoric fight scenes of them in a boxing ring, and then there's, all through the movie. And basically, they decided to go with the old trope of light skin versus dark skin. Addie Monroe being a mulatto with long, mixed hair, good hair, and CJ Walker being, less attractive, dark skin, and in the beginning without nice hair. And so supposedly, Addie Monroe, constantly threw this in CJ Walker's face that, you're not pretty enough, you're not good enough, you're not light skinned enough. And that's what we had to see throughout this movie. And that's disappointing on so many fronts because both women in real life were very successful. They both were millionaires. Annie Malone was a millionaire before CJ Walker became a millionaire. Annie Malone had already built schools and opened up shops all over the country, all over the world, all over Europe. Wherever there were Black people, that's where Annie Malone went. And she educated, she employed thousands upon thousands of people all over the world. She had already done these things. She was all, by the time CJ Walker came along, all CJ Walker did was follow in Annie Malone's footsteps. And the one thing I will give credit to CJ Walker for was she was much more ambitious. She was a go-getter, and she had grand ideas that she saw through until they came true. And I will never knock her for that. But what I don't like is how she's been positioned in history as the only person to have done these things, and also as the first person to do these things. And for some reason, historians, Black historians in particular, have allowed us, or people, to push Annie Malone's story to the background as if she didn't matter, as if she didn't do all the wonderful, great things that she did for the state of Missouri, the state of Illinois, and any other place that she put down roots and opened up the schools. And just everything, the amount of people that she employed, that she provided jobs for, at a time where it was still hard to get jobs. They weren't that far removed from slavery. Both of these women were children of former slaves. And then for them to go on to be entrepreneurs and millionaires in that time period, and uplifting their people, providing jobs for them, that's amazing. For late 1800s, early 1900s, that is amazing. They both should be celebrated for that. And it's a shame that this movie instead made such a mockery of Annie Malone. They put her and portrayed her in such a horrible, demeaning, stereotypical light. And stereotypical, as far as how Black women, can't seem to get along. Like we can't let the other shine. Like we got to tear each other down instead of supporting and celebrating each other. That was not something that needed to be shown or even exploited in the way that it was. It was just ugly and it was unnecessary. And we've come much farther than that. And I feel like that made us take 100 steps back. It wasn't funny. It wasn't cute. I saw no entertainment value in that. And there's many who defend the movie and saying that it was good, it was entertaining, and that it had to be entertaining. They had to add drama in order for people to watch or in order for people to tune in. And I don't subscribe to that. I don't even want to hear that as an excuse, because I feel like we're intelligent enough, we're smart enough, we're mature enough as women, Black women, to be able to handle seeing a story about two successful Black women bring themselves up from nothing and make something of themselves, make something of their lives. Even if they had a rivalry, they got over it and they were still successful in their own right. And I don't see why both of those stories could not be told together. There's more than enough room for there to be two successful Black women. And I think this series totally missed an opportunity to shine a light on two successful Black women. And if they didn't want to shine the light on Annie Malone, then they should have left her just completely out of this film. Don't include her if you're not going to tell the truth. And I kept wondering the whole time, like, how does Annie Malone's family, her surviving family members, how do they feel about this? How did they even let this happen? Like, did they not know? Were they not consulted? Did anybody in her family okay this? Because, they try to say that Addie Monroe was fictional. No, she was not. No, she was not. Stop it. She was based off of Annie Malone, the real life Annie Malone, and she was shown in a very awful light. And my other issue is, if you were to watch this series, this 4-part series on Netflix, and if you knew nothing about the history of Madam C.J. Walker or the real life Annie Malone, you would take what you saw in this series and believe it. You would believe that everything that transpired was true if you didn't know the history. And that's another huge issue I have with this, because these were outright lies. This wasn't just creative license that was being taken. And honestly, this didn't shine a bright light on CJ Walker either, because what I got from this was CJ Walker was a very awful woman. She was not a nice person. She was not nice to her husband. And that's another thing. It makes you kind of feel sorry for her husband, Charles James. I think that's his name, Charles James Walker, CJ. It kind of made you feel sorry for him. But I'm also learning that he actually wasn't that great of a person. He was a horrible cheater. He constantly cheated on her. But in the movie, what they showed was her constantly demeaning and emasculating him. and they showed him in a more loving, supportive husband light. So that's why I kind of sided with him based off what they showed in the film, because from the beginning they showed him being the supportive husband, um, doing whatever Sarah wanted, moving, you name it. I mean, he worked in her shops, he did hair, he did whatever his wife asked him to do. And what you saw in return was Sarah constantly barking orders at him. She didn't trust him. She never consulted with him or let him have input in any part of the business. It was always me, 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 mine. This is my business. I did this. I did that. Oh, he works for me. Wow. So I didn't like that. I didn't like that, even if their relationship wasn't all that great. That's still your husband, and in front of potential business partners and other important people, you shouldn't emasculate your husband. You just shouldn't. But anyway, that was a whole other story. She just was not a nice person, based on how they wrote this character for this particular film, this 4-part series. Other things that threw me off with this film was the modern rap music and R&B music that played throughout the film. I love period piece movies and TV shows. So if you're going to be set in the late 1800s, 1900s, 2000s, I need that music to reflect that. I can't be looking at people dressed in costumes from the 1800s and 1900s and I'm hearing rap music or I'm hearing R&B music. The music selection itself was awesome. They were playing some jams. A lot of the songs, they sound like original songs or just from artists I've never heard from who aren't maybe that popular. But it made it hard for me to buy into the whole setting and premise of the film. Excuse me, when the music doesn't match. And then also throughout the film, there was like little dance musicals, which again was, to show you CJ Walker's thoughts and how she felt about things, how she viewed things. And it will always be in these dance sequences. That was off-putting because I'm not a fan of musicals, for one. I don't like watching things where they're acting and then all of a sudden they break out into song and dance. That's irritating to me. I just never liked it. So that was another thing that I didn't like about the the film. Tiffany Haddish, good Lord. Listen, I know she's trying. I'm not going to be mad at her for trying to get her coins, y'all, but she is not a good actress. She's just not. She's a comedian, and when I see her in films, especially a film like this, which is supposed to be serious, I just couldn't. I couldn't believe or get into her character. She wasn't believable. It wasn't good. Another disappointing thing for me is with Octavia Spencer. It seems like Octavia Spencer always aligns herself with films that shrouded in controversy. She was a producer for The Green Book. There was a lot of controversy surrounding the Green Book. The person the movie was based off of, his family was not happy with the film. They did not want the film made. They wanted no parts of it, but the film was made anyway. They pointed out many inaccuracies and they made the film anyway, like blaring inaccuracies. And they made this film based on the chauffeur's son or grandson who tried to paint his racist father or grandfather as this reformed racist, because he happened to hang out with this gay black man, and he had a total turn about in his thinking and beliefs, and he all of a sudden wasn't racist anymore, and it was this beautiful buddy friendship between a black man and a white man. And this is what they want us to believe. And that's how they presented the Green Book as. I just can't buy it. I refuse to buy it, and it makes no sense. But once again, they went forward with that movie anyway, and Octavia Spencer was a producer. I think there was another film besides this that she was also part of. I was like, why do you like putting your name with controversy, especially when it's films about us black people and they're not being told right. They're not being done in a correct way. And then here we are, and I'm disappointed with LeBron James and Maverick Carter for putting their names on this film. And I'm pretty sure they had some say-so in how this film came about. And they put their names on it. And they put their names on something that wasn't accurate, that wasn't true. And I know the end game is to make money, and make money they did. Because if I'm not mistaken, this 4-part series was #1 for the first week. The first week that it, was on Netflix. So it made money. It was trending, good or bad. Bad publicity is good publicity, so they say in Hollywood. But for something that that where the story isn't true, it's not completely accurate, and how it depicted black women. And I'm not going to say that colorism did not happen back then. Yes, it happened. It was rampant. It happened a lot. They could have talked about it, addressed it, and then moved on to more important things, to me. That shouldn't have been the main storyline for Madam C.J. Walker, because I know a lot of people like myself went in wanting to know more about her and her backstory and what she went through. Not a made-up rivalry between her and Annie Malone, and how you're light-skinned, you think you're better than me, I'm dark-skinned, and it's so tired. It was shoved down our throats, and it wasn't needed. And that's my huge issue. That whole storyline was not needed. And for that storyline to take up the entire film, my goodness. We're better than that. Black women deserve better. And it was such a missed opportunity. It was a missed opportunity to show how these women overcame, what they did, and how they both were successful in their own right without having to pit them against one another and have this horrible rivalry and hatred for one another. And when in real life that wasn't even the case. C.J. Walker died at the age, she was in her 50s when she died. She was young. I want to say she was 51-ish, maybe older. Annie Malone lived to be 87. She lived a long life, and people people point out, well, when Annie Malone died, she only had like $100,000. Okay, but she was a millionaire several times over throughout her lifespan, throughout her lifetime. The woman made money. She made lots of money, and she did good things with her money in Missouri, in Chicago, in Illinois, in other states all over the world. She did very good things with her money, and the things that she did with her money is still standing, is still going. So because she died, with less money, I'm not sure how that makes her story any less compelling or makes her what she did any less meaningful or successful. She was still successful in what she did. So that's my issue with the Madam C.J. Walker series on Netflix. I was highly disappointed. I did not like it. Was it entertaining? Sure, it was entertaining. If I had to give it a grade, I would give it a C minus, D plus maybe. But it was nothing what I was looking for, nothing what I expected. It was disappointing. And Annie Malone and her legacy deserves better, and I hope her family does something to tell her story, her true story, and because she deserves that. She was a trailblazer. She was a trailblazer for C.J. Walker. If there was no Annie Malone, there would be no C.J. Walker, and people need to start putting that out there and admitting that. So I'm all about truth, and I want true stories, and we haven't heard the true story yet, and we need to know more about Annie Malone. Annie Malone's name needs to be out. It needs to be out there. We all need to know it. Our kids need to know it. The schools need to be teaching our kids this. We, as parents, Black parents, need to be teaching our kids about Annie Malone and not just C.J. Walker and the straightening comb. Come on. We can do better. Way better. So that's my blurb. Please chime in with your thoughts. If you agree, disagree, what you got from it, from this series. Let's talk about it. Hit me up. Thanks for watching. Sorry this was so long. Bye-bye.